guys, you're not going to see me today because I want you staring at the first three cards of the Major Arcana. The Fool, the Magician, and the Empress. And we're going to start with the Fool, which is the first card. And you're going to want to stare at this and see what you see in it as I go along with you and tell you what I see in it and then what it represents in this journey. I'm going to tell the story of the Fool, Hermes, through all 22 archetype cards of the Major Arcana. I'm going to show you how he starts off coming out of that cave you see behind him. It's going to go from there all the way through the 22 cards to the end, and to have picked up all the wisdom and experiences of life. And as these come up in tarot spreads, they show what stage people are exiting or entering or struggling with. Okay, that's what the Major Arcana is about. Like I said, you can see him coming out of the cave, which means he's stepping out onto his own. He's on the edge of a cliff. He's stepping out without looking. So the Fool in your reading a lot of times is very impulsive, very inexperienced, yet very full of life and ambition and motivation and full of drive, right? There's both sides to each card. I don't choose to read tarots upside down or right side up. I put them all right side up no matter what way they come, because I present both sides of the card to the person I'm reading instead of saying, oh, you're in the negative or oh, you're in the positive. I present both sides and I let them decide where they are in the Fool's journey. Okay, that's how I choose to do it. Give some people back control of their life and to see where they are instead of telling them. So you also see that Hermes here is dressed in animal skins and has a couple of horns coming out of his head, and that would represent his primal energy, right? That animal instinct. That's really all he has right now, you know. Don't touch the hot stove because it hurts. So he's really going on his animal instinct, his primal instinct, his intuition, and he's hoping it will lead him to the promised land. And if you look at all that land out there, there's not really a path set out. It's really untrodden in the card, isn't it? It's very barren. So he has to go out and he has to create a path for himself. When you look at the card, you see all the dynamics that can tell you this is the beginning of a journey. So you don't really have to use your memorization skills of what the Fool means in the tarot. You want to get a feel for Hermes. You want to relate the card to a feeling. The feeling of that is that joy of starting out on your own. We all know what that's like. And being excited and scared at the same time, right? Fear and excitement, right? Thinking you know everything and you're ready, yet you know nothing and you're fearful. Now, of course, there's an eagle there too on the branch above him. And basically, I think that's pretty representation of the watching over the Fool. That is the guy. And the eagle was known as the bird of Zeus. And Zeus is his dad. So it's like his dad is watching over him. His ancestry, where he came from, is with him on this journey. So basically, when you get the Fool in a spread, you want to tell people you're leaping into the unknown. You know, go ahead. Take some risks. Don't be so conservative and cautious right now. You're at that place in your life. You want to have the faith to jump off the cliff, but you might want to peek over and make sure it's exactly where you want to go, right? You have a little bit too much impulsivity, but you have a lot of great ambition and just natural happiness at this stage. And your drive may have no rational basis, right? There might not be any pre-programming to your plan. That is okay at this stage because you're going with that primal animal instinct. That's your sixth sense. So usually when you're starting off at the Fool, as much as you'll run into trouble, you end up getting where you need to go because you really are fearless. The archetype is the Fool, right? Remember we talked about what archetype meant in the intro to tarots? The Fool meaning you know nothing, yet you are wise enough to get out there and try. And some of the words I put with the Fool card would be beginner, impulsive, passionate, courageous, stupidity. Those are some of the words that key, bullet point words that represent the Fool. Now what happens is in the second card you've got the Magician, and that is the Fool meaning the magician part of himself. Okay, and the Magician I like to call the trickster because it has more confidence. Hermes has more confidence as the Magician than he did as the Fool. He's been out there a little bit. Look behind him. He's got some paths he's trodden, right? He's made some paths in life. It's not uncharted territory. The sun has risen, and he knows there's more elements to life than himself. A little bit, but he is still pretty darn narcissistic And he still isn't fully divine, right? He's got 22 cards to get through to learn about himself. So basically here, Hermes, you see him in the red and the white, and that is earthly passion versus clear divinity thinking. And then you have that stone in front of him, right? That shows you the caduceus and the chalice and the sword and the pentacle, showing you all the things that make up his path. You know, the reality, the physicality, the earthly things of the pentacles, your house, your home, your family. The swords, that's the mental clarity that you require to make good decision. The caduceus, that's the emotion, the wands, that's the good and evil, the two snakes there, right, intertwined. There's good and evil, all emotion, it drives one or the other. And then, of course, relationships and what we meet on the way is represented by the cup. So when Hermes meets the part of himself that is represented by the archetype of the trickster, the magician, it is a little bit more seasoned Hermes, right? But because of that old seasoning, there's a little bit of arrogance as well. And sometimes when you find the magician in your spread, what it's going to show you is you're going to get a kick in the arse to smarten you up and get you back on your path. Sometimes it is positive. Here you go for the hard work. But usually the magician is really more about giving you a kick in the ass to say get back on your path. He is both the spiritual light and the primordial darkness. Okay, like the red and the white cape he is wearing. When the magician comes up in a reading, you would want to tell people that no matter how lost they feel, that they're going to get through this, that this is the stage that they're at, having to make choices and crossroads and changes in life because of new wisdoms, new experiences are not fun. They haven't done anything wrong. It's not a karmic punishment that everybody believes in. It's simply a crossroads because they have to change direction. And if you don't know which path to take, well, then you will sit and meditate on this card. Remember, I talked about that in the introduction to tarot. Take the magician, sit and look at it. Look at that card. Get it ingrained into your mind, or whatever card it is for you in your deck. And until you get a clear thought of what you should do. That's what the tarot is for, not just to help guide your future, but to meditate. Remember also when the magician comes in, that it can actually come in as dreams or precognitive feelings and dreams, because this is magic. So you might have a dream, or you might see a lot of God winks, synchronicities, right? Get a sudden hunch. Or you might accidentally come across a book or get a chance visit from a friend. These are turns of fate. They usually mean you haven't gotten back on path, or you thought you were on the right path and you're not. That's usually what this indicates. All right, so the Fool sometimes gets a little foolhardily thinking, I got a little bit of experience under my belt now and I know what I'm doing. And then the Fool gets dropped on his ass by the magician saying, you don't know it all yet, kid. Then we meet the Empress. This is the feminine energy that is going to make the Fool a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more compassionate, more empathetic. The Empress is Mother Nature, right? Look at the card there. You've got all the beautiful fertile hills in the background and the water flowing. Everything looks beautiful. You got lots of flowers growing in front of her, and her dress. She's pregnant, which means birth and rebirth and life. And I think that looks like some barley or rye or wheat there in the field that she's collecting to. So yeah, this is Mother Nature. It's a beautiful card. Okay, this is when we turn in our life to see that it's not all about us, and that there's other things that rely on us in life. And so most people that have raised teenagers understand that they're narcissistic little creatures, aren't they? And they go into adulthood, narcissistic little creatures, a lot of them. So by the time they're about 25, they should be coming out of that. You know, some earlier, some later, but that you should be starting to go, oh, just because I want this doesn't mean I should get this, because this might hurt somebody else, and I should care that this hurts somebody else. So that's where the Empress comes in a reading. If it's for a male or someone not looking for to become a mother and have a family, because it's an archetype of that as well. But if you're not in that situation, then it's about you finding more compassion and empathy to grow love, to create life, not take away, not be so selfish, and not make everything about you, but instead make it about other. So that's what happens when the Fool meets the Empress. They find that the life isn't all about them. And that's usually from the Magician, right? If you put these three together now, you got the Fool impulsive, stepping off the cliff, saying, I'm coming, I'm going to start my life. And you got the Magician going, there's a couple different paths you can go. And it looks like you're pretty arrogant and you think you know it all, so we're just going to sit you down and give you a few lessons. And out of those lessons grows this new compassion, this new empathy of the Empress, right? Of that feminine, nurturing, mothering energy. And now as the Fool continues the hero's journey, he's going to have a little bit more understanding and compassion for other people. Okay, so that's what those cards mean when they come up. I hope you will play with your cards this week. Don't worry about getting to know anything about them. I'd prefer you not to study them textbook-wise. I'd prefer you to stare at them. Stare at these three until you know them inside and out, because you don't want to have to memorize the tarot. You're not going to hold on to 78 cards worth of information. You want to feel your cards. What does the Fool feel like? What does the Magician feel like? What does the Empress feel like? Start connecting your heart and imprinting your energy on your cards, right? So the Fool feels foolhardily impulsive. He's going off a cliff, right? But it looks like he's got some help above him, and it's a new day, and he's not scared to start a new path. So you feel that feeling inside your heart of that. But then when you look at the Magician, he's a little bit more serious, and you realize there's some earthly things going on and some divine things and some information and some growing up. He's a little, and there's a few paths, and he's got to make a choice. So you can feel that too, right? Like, okay, it's not so much fun anymore, right? It's a little harder. I've got more choices to make. It's more on my shoulders. And then you get to the Empress, and if you just look at that card, it's beautiful, and it's got the beauty of Mother Nature in it, and the fertility of Mother Nature, and the creation of life. And you're like, be more like Mom. Don't be so judgmental, and love everything so that it can grow. So you can see and the cards, how they can attach to your heart. And that's what we're looking at doing, is attaching them to your heart so that when you use them, you don't got to worry about looking at notes. You're just going to feel. Sorry, that's my dog, King. He lays beside me and eats his bone every time I do videos, if you ever notice that noise in the background. So that's what you want to do. You want to connect your heart to these cards. You want to understand, even if your cards aren't the Mythic Tarot and don't tell the hero's journey through Hermes and all the different Greek gods, your cards will tell the journey of somebody. So it'll be the exact same story. It'll just be depicted different in your cards. So look at your cards, get to know every detail, because you can also, when you read for people, if you decide to read for people, you can use the details in the cards to help you give them comprehension of what they mean. You can say to them, look at the card. He's wearing animal skins, which is his primal nature, or he's stepping off a cliff, which tells you he's impulsive. He didn't look where he was walking. So you can use these details. Okay, folks, that is your first tarot lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, or you can email me at dawncanada@gmail.com. Or you can join the Facebook group, All Things Afterlife. Please like and please share and please subscribe. Have a great day, guys. I love you.